The Wooden Horse of Stalag Luft III. In 1943, inside a Nazi prisoner of war camp in Poland, 3 British officers built a vaulting horse. Every day, they carried it to the same spot in the exercise yard. Guards watched as prisoners took turns vaulting over it as part of their daily routine. What the guards didn't see was the man hidden inside. His name was Flight Lieutenant Eric Williams, and while prisoners vaulted above him, he was digging. The horse was hollow. Each day, Williams and his team excavated dirt, packed it into bags, and concealed it in their clothing. The tunnel started directly beneath the horse, 30 feet from the perimeter fence. For 3 months, they dug. The tunnel stretched 100 feet underground, shored up with bedboards. They built an air pump from a kit bag. They crafted civilian clothes from blankets. On October 29, 1943, Williams and 2 others crawled through, emerged outside the wire, and made it to neutral Sweden. The wooden horse escape was brilliant, but it was just one of 600 tunnels dug at Stalag Luft III. The most famous came 6 months later. On March 24, 1944, 76 Allied prisoners escaped through Harry, a tunnel 30 feet deep and 336 feet long, equipped with electric lighting, air pumps, and a trolley system. It took a year to build and required 600 men working in secret. The Nazis recaptured 73 of them. Hitler ordered 50 to be executed. Only 3 made it home, but the prisoners never stopped digging. Across history, humans have tried every conceivable method to escape captivity. Some succeeded, most didn't, and the price of failure was often death. The Bastille and the Iron Mask. In 1703, a prisoner died in the Bastille, a fortress prison in Paris. He had been held for 34 years, and for most of that time his face was hidden behind a black velvet mask. No one knew his identity. Theories ranged from an illegitimate brother of King Louis XIV to a disgraced nobleman. The man in the Iron Mask became a legend, but his story was real. The Bastille was designed to be inescapable. Walls 8 feet thick, towers 100 feet high, moats filled with water, and yet prisoners tried. In 1756, a French aristocrat named Comte de Lorge attempted to bribe a guard. The guard reported him. Delorge spent the rest of his life in solitary confinement. Others tried digging. In 1789, when revolutionaries stormed the Bastille, they found tunnels, some decades old, leading nowhere. The prisoners who dug them had either died trying or been moved to other cells before they could finish. The Bastille fell not because prisoners escaped, but because the people tore it down. By then, it held only 7 inmates, but its reputation as an inescapable prison had defined an era. Escape from medieval prisons was rare because failure meant torture or execution. But by the 20th century, warfare created a new kind of prisoner, and with them, a new kind of ingenuity. Alcatraz the Rock. On June 11, 1962, guards at Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary conducted their routine bed check. In cells B-150, B-152, and B-154, 3 men appeared to be sleeping. They weren't. The heads were dummy models made from soap, toilet paper, and human hair stolen from the prison barbershop. Frank Morris and brothers John and Clarence Anglin were gone. For 6 months, they had chipped away at the ventilation grates in their cells using sharpened spoons and a drill improvised from a vacuum cleaner motor. At night, they crawled through the openings into a utility corridor, climbed to the roof, and worked on their escape plan. They built a raft from over 50 raincoats stitched together and vulcanized using steam pipes. They fabricated life vests. They created paddles. And on that night in June, they climbed down a drain pipe, crossed the shore, and launched into the frigid waters of San Francisco Bay. The FBI searched for 17 years. They never found bodies. They never found the raft. In 2013, a letter surfaced claiming to be from John Anglin, stating all 3 had survived. The FBI couldn't verify it. To this day, no one knows if they made it. Alcatraz had been called The Rock, a prison from which escape was impossible. In its 29 years of operation, 36 men attempted to escape in 14 separate incidents. Most were shot or drowned. 5 are listed as missing and presumed dead, including Morris and the Anglins. Only 1 man is known to have reached shore alive, John Paul Scott in 1962. He was found unconscious, suffering from hypothermia, barely alive. He was returned to Alcatraz the same day. The prison closed in 1963, just months after the famous escape. It was too expensive to maintain, and its reputation had been shattered. But prisoners elsewhere continued trying. Maze Prison, The Great Escape. On September 25, 1983, 38 IRA prisoners hijacked a food truck inside the Maze Prison in Northern Ireland. They had smuggled guns into the prison piece by piece over months. They overpowered guards, locked them in cells, and drove the truck straight through the main gate. One prisoner, dressed as a guard, waved at the watchtower. The gate opened. It was the largest prison escape in British history. Within hours, a massive manhunt began. Police found 19 escapees within days, but 19 others vanished into the network of IRA safe houses across Ireland. One of the escapees, Brendan McFarlane, evaded capture for 4 years. Another, Nessan Quinlivan, wasn't recaptured until 1998, 15 years later. The escape was meticulously planned. It relied on inside knowledge, timing, and the willingness to use violence. One guard died of a heart attack during the takeover. The escape humiliated the British government and became a propaganda victory for the IRA. The maze was supposed to be one of the most secure prisons in Europe, but it proved what prisoners have always known. No prison is truly escape-proof if the plan is good enough and the desperation is great enough. El Chapo, the Tunnel King. On July 11, 2015, guards at Altiplano Federal Prison in Mexico checked on Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. He was in the shower area of his cell, out of view of the camera. When he didn't return, they investigated. He was gone. In the shower floor, there was a 20 by 20-inch hole leading to a tunnel. The tunnel was a mile long, 30 feet deep, equipped with lighting, ventilation, and a motorcycle mounted on rails. It had taken months to dig, likely by engineers, and ended in a house outside the prison walls. It was El Chapo's second escape. In 2001, he had walked out of a maximum security prison hidden in a laundry cart after bribing guards. That time, he stayed free for 13 years. After the tunnel escape, he remained free for 6 months before being recaptured. In 2017, he was extradited to the United States and is now held at ADX Florence in Colorado, considered the most secure prison in the world. El Chapo's escapes weren't just about ingenuity, they were about power. He had money, influence, and an entire organization working to free him. The tunnels weren't dug by prisoners with spoons. They were professional operations, and they worked. But even El Chapo is now in a place designed to be inescapable. ADX Florence, the new Alcatraz. Right now, in Florence, Colorado, there is a prison that has never had a successful escape. It's called ADX Florence, the United States Penitentiary Administrative Maximum Facility. It holds 400 inmates, the most dangerous in the federal system. Cells are 7 by 12 feet. Inmates spend 23 hours a day alone. Walls are concrete, reinforced with steel. Windows are 4 inches wide. Furniture is poured concrete. Doors are remotely controlled. Solid steel cannot be opened manually. El Chapo is there. So is the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski, the Boston Marathon bomber, Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, Ramzi Youssef, who bombed the World Trade Center in 1993, Terry Nichols, who helped Timothy McVeigh bomb Oklahoma City. ADX Florence has motion detectors, pressure pads, laser beams, attack dogs, and guards with rifles in towers. The prison is surrounded by 12-foot razor wire fences and 24-hour surveillance. No one has escaped, but prisoners still try. In 2005, 2 inmates were caught attempting to dig through a wall. In 2008, another tried to exploit a weakness in the ventilation system. Both failed. The prison was designed after multiple high-profile escapes in the 1980s and 90s. The philosophy is simple. If you eliminate all human contact, all tools, and all opportunity, escape becomes impossible, and so far it has been. Helicopter jailbreaks, the modern era. On August 1st, 2013, 2 men landed a helicopter on the roof of a prison in Quebec, Canada. They threw down ropes. 2 inmates, both convicted killers, climbed aboard. The helicopter flew off. It was the second time one of them had escaped by helicopter. In 2001, the same inmate had been lifted from a prison yard in a nearly identical operation. He was recaptured both times, but the escapes proved something. Even modern prisons have vulnerabilities. Since 1971, there have been over 40 documented helicopter prison escapes worldwide. France has had at least 11. In 2001, a French criminal named Pascal Payet orchestrated 3 separate helicopter escapes, twice for himself and once to free accomplices. The method works because most prisons weren't designed to defend against aerial assault. Razor wire, walls, and guards mean nothing if the escape comes from above. But after repeated incidents, prisons adapted. Many now have nets or cables strung over exercise yards. Some have installed anti-aircraft defenses. Helicopter escapes are rarer now, but they still happen. In 2018, a French criminal escaped by helicopter from a prison near Paris. He was recaptured 3 months later. The arms race between prisoners and prisons never ends. As security improves, methods evolve. The ones who almost made it. Not every escape succeeds, and some failures are worse than others. In 2015, 2 inmates, Richard Matt and David Sweat, escaped from Clinton Correctional Facility in New York by cutting through steel walls with power tools smuggled in by a prison employee. They crawled through tunnels, broke through a brick wall, and emerged from a manhole outside the prison. Matt was shot and killed by police 3 weeks later. Sweat was shot and captured 2 days after that, just miles from the Canadian border. In 1979, John Gotti, the future head of the Gambino crime family, allegedly planned a helicopter escape from a federal prison. The plan was aborted when authorities got wind of it. In 1984, 6 death row inmates at Mecklenburg Correctional Center in Virginia overpowered guards, stole their uniforms, and drove out the front gate. They were the infamous Mecklenburg Six. All were recaptured within 3 weeks. 2 were executed. The history of prison escapes is mostly a history of failure. For every El Chapo, there are 100 inmates who died in tunnels, drowned in rivers, or were shot before reaching the fence. Why do they try? Prisons are designed to break the will. Isolation, routine, surveillance, they all serve one purpose: to convince inmates that escape is not just impossible, but unthinkable. And yet, humans keep trying. Some do it for freedom, some for survival, some simply because the alternative is life in a cage. The ingenuity is staggering. Prisoners have dug tunnels with spoons, built gliders from bed frames, sewn parachutes from sheets, and bribed guards with money they shouldn't have had. They've hidden in trash, mailed themselves out in crates, and even faked their own deaths. The question isn't whether humans will keep trying to escape. It's whether any prison can ever be truly escape-proof. Right now, somewhere in the world, someone is planning. They're studying guard rotations, mapping ventilation systems, or digging through concrete with a tool made from a toothbrush. The arms race continues. Prisons build higher walls. Prisoners find new ways through them, and the cycle never ends. If you made it this far, thank you. Make sure to subscribe for more stories like this, and let me know in the comments which prison escape attempt you think was the most ingenious.